In today's video, I have 3 delicious family dinners to share with you, plus a dessert. That's 4 recipes, all for under $30 total. Here you see my little Aldi haul for this meal plan. I have about 2 pounds of chicken thighs. If you want to watch this video and decide if you need a little more or a little less, you can do that, but this will suffice for my family. I have a pound of ground turkey, and I find this in the freezer section. And if you are not a fan of ground turkey, they have ground beef right next to that for about $1 more. Produce, I have 2 cucumbers, 1 head of plain old iceberg lettuce, and 2 Roma tomatoes. I was happy to see that I can actually just purchase Roma tomatoes by the tomato instead of having to buy a whole bag or a whole pound at a time. Dairy, I've got some sour cream and some feta cheese. Grains, I have a big 2-pound bag, or actually this is 3 pounds, a 3-pound bag of just plain white rice. You can get a different kind of rice if you want. Any kind of rice, I think, will work with this meal plan. And I also went ahead and picked up a box of Jiffy cornbread mix. Canned goods, I have some garbanzo beans, aka chickpeas, some Great Northern beans, 1 can of green chilies, and 1 can of corn. If you want to get frozen corn, that's fine, but this amount of corn was just right for the recipe I'm gonna use it for, so I got the canned. And then over here, totally superfluous, but kind of fun to have a little dessert action going on, right? I have a cake mix and a pint or pound of strawberries, and then 1 container of whipped topping, brand name Cool Whip, and a package of strawberry jello and 1 package of plain vanilla pudding mix. And we're gonna do a delicious dessert with those things, totally optional. Just thought it would be fun to tack that on to this meal plan this week. My total at Aldi before tax was $28.39. But then I stopped by Walmart to get 3 things: 1 onion, 1 bulb of garlic, or 1 head of garlic, and 1 lemon. And those are things that I have to buy in bulk at Aldi, so it would have busted my budget. But if those are things that you use frequently and you just want to pick those things up, or you already have them, then you can either purchase them at Aldi or not pick them up at all. So that brings my total to $30.16. Not too shabby. Now, per the usual, I want to point out that I'm cooking in a family kitchen. And so there are a few things, a few kitchen staples that we have on hand, like cooking oil, basic seasonings and spices and condiments. And I'm going to be using a few of those things in this meal plan. If you don't have the exact same seasonings that I'm using, I want to encourage you to get creative, use the seasonings that you have, and also to remember that the seasonings aren't necessarily the point when it comes to the nourishment of the meals. The food itself is what provides the fill the belly aspect. The seasonings and the condiments and the sauces and the things that we put in it just help make it a little bit more palatable, but they aren't always necessary. And per the usual, like I say, a little salt and pepper can take a dish a long way. We are having chicken and rice tonight, and I'm going to make this in a skillet. So I am browning some of the chicken thighs. I have 3 very large chicken thighs. I could have cut them into smaller pieces, but I decided it would be easy just to do that when they're done cooking. To prepare these, I just put them in a bowl with a little olive oil, and I made my own seasoning mix from a teaspoon of salt and then half a teaspoon each of garlic powder, paprika, rosemary, thyme, and basil. And I just poured that over the chicken breast and kind of massaged it in, and then popped the lid on that container and put it in the fridge for a couple of hours. And now I'm putting them into a skillet with a couple tablespoons of oil, and I'm gonna let them brown a little bit on each side, probably about 3 to 4 minutes on each side, and then remove them to a plate. We're gonna cook them up the rest of the way with the rice mixture. To the drippings and the remaining oil, I'm gonna add about half an onion chopped. I'm gonna stir that around and let it saute for a couple of minutes on its own before I add 2 cups of rice and a couple cloves of pressed garlic for another 1 to 2 minutes. Now I'm adding 4 cups of water plus a couple teaspoons of better than bouillon, And if you don't have any broth or broth base, don't worry about it. Just use water and you can use a little extra seasoning. It'll be okay. This is gonna help deglaze the pan just a little bit, get all those little brown bits off the bottom. Plus I'm going to season this with the exact same seasonings I used before on the chicken minus the salt. So this is half a teaspoon each of garlic powder, paprika, rosemary, basil, and thyme. Now I'm gonna put my browned chicken pieces back in here, and I wanna bring this to a simmer, cover it, and let it simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes with the lid on. And then I'm gonna turn the heat off, but I'm gonna leave the lid on for another 10 minutes to help the rice continue to cook by steaming and finish cooking up the chicken. Future Mindy, popping in here really quickly to say that if I had this one to do over again, I would brown the chicken thighs a little bit longer, like maybe 7 to 9 minutes per side instead of the 4 to 5 that I gave mine, because I had to increase the cook time with the rice because my chicken thighs didn't quite cook through all the way. And of course you wanna make sure that your chicken is cooked all the way. So use a meat thermometer if you have one. I will also leave a link in the description box below to a similar recipe that shows you how to finish this recipe up in the oven instead of on the stove. To go along with this dinner, I am making just a very, very simple salad. I took my head of iceberg lettuce and I chopped it up and I washed it. I like to soak it in the sink in a bowl with water and a little bit of vinegar, and then I just put it in my salad spinner. I also chopped up half of my cucumber. And I did set aside some of the lettuce for a meal I'm gonna make later this week. To dress this, I'm gonna keep it super simple. I'm just gonna use oil and vinegar. This is just regular olive oil. I've got some vinegar here, some champagne vinegar. My husband really likes this. I've used apple cider vinegar before. And some salt and some pepper. Super duper simple. I'm just gonna give this a toss. I'm gonna let the oil and vinegar and the seasonings kind of marinate here with the lettuce and the cucumber, and then when it's time to eat, I'm gonna plate this alongside the chicken and rice, and I'm going to top it with just a little bit of feta cheese. Really simple, but it'll be really tasty. Saving money in a variable expenditure category in our household budgets, like groceries, where I'm in control of what I spend for the most part, is something that I like to do because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room across the rest of my household budget. And this makes it possible for me to splurge on some things and invest in some items that I really like to have high quality for myself and my household. I celebrated a very big birthday last summer, the kind that ends in 0. And one of the things that I have noticed the last few years and as I'm getting older is that I cannot put a price on good quality sleep. It's something that I struggle with from time to time, so I have been trying to limit my caffeine intake in the last half of the day and also drastically reduce my screen time in the evenings. My husband and I also invested in a good quality bed and mattress a little over a year ago, but the one thing that keeps eluding me is finding good quality, comfortable, and durable sheets. So that is why I was so excited when Brooklinen reached out and wanted to work with me, and they are sponsoring today's video. Brooklinen was founded on the philosophy that we all deserve simple and beautiful home essentials, but at a fair price. And if you think about it, if we're getting the 8 hours of sleep a day that's recommended, we're spending about a third of our life overall in our beds. So it makes sense that we want really comfortable sheets that are also durable and get softer with each wash. Plus, Brooklinen has over 20 patterns and colors to choose from, and you can mix and match them, especially if you're getting one of their bundles, which is one of the best values on their site. Instead of buying individual items, you can actually get everything you need to create a comfortable and beautiful bed all in one package. I just got the Luxe Hardcore bundle set for our king size bed in our bedroom, and it comes with a fitted sheet and flat sheet and 2 pillowcases plus 2 additional pillowcases in the size that you want and a duvet cover. And like I said, you can choose your colors, you can mix and match. I like plain white crisp sheets because they're really easy to wash, but I got this beautiful pinstripe duvet cover that is going to be very versatile for us and last a long time. I have said many times when making these budget cooking videos that everybody deserves to be fed, and encourage people to seek out the resources that they need when they're in a tight spot. And I feel that way about sleep also. We all deserve a good night's sleep, right? Especially considering the way that it affects our overall health. So if you have been on the fence about splurging on some new good quality durable sheets, Brooklinen has a deal today for my viewers. They're offering $20 off any purchase of $100 or more. All you have to do is follow the link in the description box below and use the code Mindy20. 20. Take a look around the Brooklinen website and see what they have to offer. Investing in good linens and home essentials is a form of self-care. Plus, you can see on their website that they have over 100,000 5-star reviews. So very satisfied customers speak volumes to me. So once again, for $20 off your order of $100 or more, use the code Mindy20 when you follow the link in the description box below. And thank you again to Brooklinen for making a fantastic product and also sponsoring today's video. Would it be a See Mindy Mom Dinners video if I did not have some kind of crock pot meal or soup recipe or other quick weeknight meal idea? I don't know, maybe not, at least in this season of my life. And here on this channel, I do try to be helpful in a kind, positive, and realistic way. And if I am being real, I have to admit that the season of life that my family is in right now is very busy, and that at least once, if not 2 or even 3 times a week, I need something super quick or something that I can get going earlier in the day that will be ready when we walk in the door at dinner time that evening. So I've got something going in the crock pot tonight for dinner. It's going to be delicious. Let me show you what we're doing. In my crock pot, I have my other 2 little chicken thighs from my package. I have some minced garlic and I have half an onion. I did not chop that. I just peeled the top layer off and I'm putting it in basically as a whole onion chunk because I'm going to actually take that out later on. You can chop it up and leave it in there if you want. To season this, I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of salt. You can use more or less depending on your taste. I'm also gonna throw in a couple bay leaves because, I don't know, just seems like the thing to do with soups. Totally optional. And now to that, I'm going to add my can of Great Northern beans. And I did not drain and rinse these because I actually want like the liquids and the salt and kind of the starchy water from the beans in here. It helps flavor and thicken the soup. You can drain them if you want, if you're watching your sodium. I'm also gonna add my can of sweet corn, same thing, and my can of green chilies. I'm also gonna fill each can with water and dump those in. So that's about 4 cups of water, all in all. I'm gonna pop the lid on, and since I'm getting this going earlier in the day, I'm gonna let it cook on low for about 6 to 7 hours, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're gonna finish it up. What I have in this bowl here is about half a cup of my sour cream, and I'm going to mix that with half a cup of flour. And what I'm going to do as soon as my soup is done cooking, actually it is done, I'm getting ready to do this next step, I'm going to remove the onion and the bay leaves and just discard those. And then I am also going to remove the chicken thighs and shred those up. And then I'm gonna take this sour cream and flour mixture and I'm going to whisk that into the soup. And then I'm going to put the shredded chicken back in and just let it heat up on low again, and this will actually help the soup to thicken up some. Okay, one correction to that recipe, and I don't know why I just did it this way, because on my outline for this video where I came up with these recipes, I have the correct measurements. But for some reason I was thinking half a cup each of sour cream and flour. It's half a cup of sour cream and a quarter cup of flour that I meant to put in the mixture. If you use equal parts, you're gonna end up with little flour dumplings like this, along with the flour that I needed to thicken the soup up. So do as I say, not as I do. Whisk in half a cup of sour cream and a quarter cup of flour. That should be the mixture. You could also just stir in the sour cream and then add a cornstarch slurry with a few tablespoons of cornstarch and about a quarter cup to a third of a cup of water. That would help thicken it up too, especially if you didn't want to use flour, if you wanted to make this into like a gluten-free recipe. I almost forgot that I bought some cornbread to go along with this recipe, and I do have an egg and a little splash of milk to make this up, so I'm gonna make it according to the box directions with the addition of about half a cup of my sour cream in hopes that that will help the cornbread turn out a little bit more moist. If you don't have those things, I mean, you do have sour cream if you purchased it from, you know, the grocery haul that I used at the beginning of this video, but I think you could just add water to this and maybe turn it into some little cornbread pancakes if you wanted to get your skillet or your griddle out to make little cornbread pancakes, or you could just mix it and, you know, not use it at all. I did make up a little bit of the rice, just plain white rice, so people could put that in the bottom of their bowl to kind of bulk this up. And I've got a couple pieces of cornbread here with just a little bit of butter. Of course, if you want to add some shredded cheese to your grocery haul, you could put that in here as well, or even little dollops of sour cream, or maybe some cilantro. or some jalapenos or some avocado. There are all kinds of ways you can dress this up if you want to add extra things. But this is how it looks with just the ingredients that I use, the way that I made it tonight. I have not forgotten that I also promised a dessert recipe in this budget meal plan as well, and we're gonna make a delicious strawberry poke cake. I made my cake according to the package directions, save for the egg whites. My box called for 5 egg whites, and I just used 2 regular eggs like, you know, most standard cake mixes would call for, and just baked it up that way. And now I am using the end of a wooden spoon, and I am poking some holes in the cake about 1 inch or so apart. I dissolved my strawberry jello in 1 cup of boiling water. That's about half of what, well, I guess it calls for the boiling water, but you're not gonna add the cold water to it like you normally would with making jello the regular way. I just dissolved it in a cup of boiling water, and then I'm going to pour it over the top of this cake, and I'm gonna put that in the refrigerator to chill for a few hours before we come back and finish up the cake. I've got my pudding mix here, my vanilla pudding mix, and to that I am going to add just 1 cup of milk. That's half the recommended milk. Oh gosh, this is like, I can't get this open. What is the deal? There we go, okay. Well, for crying out loud, I'm struggling. Okay, there we go. All right, I have 1 cup of milk, and I'm going to beat that really, really well. Oops, maybe. Boy, this is this is turning into quite the production. My cord is tangled here. Okay. Yay, there we go. Now, before this gets too thick, I'm going to fold in my Cool Whip. And this is what I'm going to use to frost the cake. So the cake has been chilling. I'm gonna get that out of the refrigerator, and then once I fold in this Cool Whip to the thick pudding mixture, I'll put that over the top of the cake, and then I'm gonna finish it off by topping it with fresh strawberries that I already washed and chopped up. And I'll put that back into the fridge so that it can all chill together. I want it to chill for another couple of hours at least. Overnight would be even better, and then we'll have a delicious strawberry cake to enjoy this week with our meals. Tonight we are having sort of like a Mediterranean inspired rice bowl with seasoned ground beef and tomatoes and cucumbers and feta cheese. But first, to go along with that, I want to attempt kind of a tzatziki-ish style sauce. I say ish because traditional tzatziki uses yogurt, if I'm not mistaken, and I actually purchased sour cream, so I'm gonna try to use it instead. If you wanted to be more authentic, you could pick up some yogurt as well, but I'm gonna try to make it work with the sour cream. Let's see what we can come up with. I have about 1 cup of sour cream left in here, about half of my container, and I've decided I'm just gonna mix the tzatziki sauce up in this container because why dirty up another dish, right? So I am adding a little bit of grated zucchini. I know this is a little bit watery, but I'm actually okay with that because I kind of want this to be a little runnier than like a traditional tzatziki sauce. I'm gonna use about 1 teaspoon of dill. I'm just using dried dill. I didn't buy any fresh. It would be much better with fresh, I think, if you have that. Probably more like half a teaspoon or a little less than a teaspoon. For the life of me, I cannot find my garlic press. I think maybe one of my children who was unloading the dishwasher might have put it somewhere, and I don't know where it is. And I've turned this kitchen upside down looking for it. So I'm just gonna use my little microplane here to grate some of my fresh garlic into this. The lemon I got was really big, so I'm gonna start by using just half of it. I'm gonna juice half of the lemon. Oops, don't want a seed in there. And a little salt and pepper to taste. I'm gonna just stir that all together. Then I'm gonna put the lid back on it and pop it into the fridge until we are ready to eat tonight. I'm making this a few hours ahead so that all of the flavors and the seasonings can kind of soak in. And this will be a nice little topping for our rice bowls tonight. This is what's left of my cucumber after the tzatziki and the cucumbers I put in the salad the other night. So I'm just gonna chop the rest of it up along with the couple of tomatoes that I bought. I'm gonna toss those with a little oil and vinegar and salt and pepper and pop them into the fridge as well, so we have a little like cucumber and tomato salad to put in our bowls. I almost forgot that I purchased chickpeas for this meal. So I'm actually turning the oven on to 400 because I'm gonna roast mine. I'm gonna drain them and rinse them and then toss them with a little olive oil and some seasoning. I think I'll just use some paprika and garlic powder and a little salt and pepper. And I'm gonna roast those in the oven for, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes or so. And we'll have those for our little rice bowls also. I am just finishing up browning my ground turkey here on the stove. I also have some rice cooking. I actually put it into my slow cooker on the rice steaming setting because it steams it perfectly for me. To this turkey, this is totally optional, but I'm gonna add some Worcestershire because this is a tip that one of you gave me years ago about cooking with ground turkey if you much prefer ground beef, and we prefer ground beef, so I just feel like this gives it like a little bit more of a beefy flavor. And to season this, I'm just gonna use about 1/4 teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, oregano, thyme, and basil. Oops, that's more than 1/4 teaspoon. Just need one, okay? And then salt and pepper to taste. You could definitely use different seasonings, use whatever you want. I'm going pretty basic here because there's so many things in this meal that are gonna be very flavorful and add a lot of flavors to the bowl. I don't need for the meat to be like super duper flavorful. I'm also adding just a smidge of water, like 1/4 cup, because I just want something for the meat to simmer in so that it can soak up all of these seasonings. So I'm just gonna let that simmer for a couple of minutes on the stove, and then it will be ready to go for our rice bowls. Okay, time to assemble the bowls. I have my rice here and my seasoned ground turkey all cooked up. I have a little bit of lettuce left from the salads the other night, so I've saved some of it for this, so I'm gonna put a little bit of that in here. I've got my cucumbers and tomatoes with the oil and vinegar, salt and pepper, my chickpeas going in here, some tzatziki sauce, tzatziki. I never can say that very well, but I've already tasted it and it tastes good, so that's what really matters, right? Put a big old dollop of that in here. I have plenty. And to finish it off, some feta cheese. Yummy. And now, the best part, the taste test. That turned out so much better than even I anticipated, and I was looking forward to this. This is so good. This sour cream tzatziki sauce really takes it over the top. So if you can make that, highly recommend. And then just like the coolness of the veggies, you know, having the cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce in there, just to add like a little bit of a different texture, a little crunchiness to it. 10 out of 10. Pick out one of these videos to watch next. Check out Brooklinen in the description box below. Thank you again to Brooklinen for sponsoring today's video.